Okay. In professional life, there is something called deadline style. It means that when the deadline is up, that's the style the thing's going to be, right? So at this point, because we're coming near the deadline, which is 11:59 tonight, and we're running out of class time to demo it, I'm just now going to try to make this as good as I can before I turn it in, without any major endeavors. So I'm looking for the weak spots, and I'm seeing them, and one of them is this transition right here, and the other is I don't really want to cut it off right there. I want to cut it off lower. So think, what are the easy ways to solve this if we have control of all the pixels? Right? I can take this layer and I can make a duplicate of it, or I can just do it right on the layer and hit Command T, and then I can warp it and just tug it like cookie dough, rolling it to fill in the shapes I need. And as I do that, I can decide where to reveal it or not with the ropes going into it, right? So that versus that. You see, it helps a little bit. And then I can go in and I can use my lasso with a 1 pixel feather, and I can just show these ropes continuing and cutting out like that. Hope I didn't quite get it right on though. So with a 1 pixel feather, right? Kind of find the edges of the rocks. Show that these ropes are underneath this kind of metal plate. Not all of them, but some of them. So they don't feel arbitrarily cut off. That will help a little bit. Does that make sense? And I can even do internal compositing. So for instance, I could take these rocks here. We'll do a lot of this as we're learning how to put creatures into the environment, how to animate the environment, that kind of thing. But this is internal compositing. I take that chunk of rocks, Command J, duplicate it, and then move those to help mask here, where I think I might need an edge like that. Right. And then I can tilt them, warp them, play with those rocks. I don't love having it be so copy-pasty, is my term for when things are too obviously the same. So I'll change them a little bit more. Okay, that helps. Okay, now I find the edges of my composition. I'm going to move my guide to be just a little bit within the edge, and I'm going to move my top guide to be higher. And then my side guide, I'm going to move all the way out to here. And then this side guide, I might as well move all the way out to here. I've got enough reference for all this. The horizon line makes sense, but it doesn't make sense beyond here, which is why I need to cut it there. And now I'm going to crop my image. So I've moved my guides. Now I use the crop tool. This will cut through all my different layers and frame it in once I'm happy with it. Doesn't mean we can't keep improving it. I'm going to show you massive ways we can improve it, but it's good enough for turning in. Does it meet the requirements? Does it have at least 5 different layers built into an original landscape? Does it showcase foreground, middle ground, background? That's what we're trying to do. Right. All right. And if there's little adjustments, I'm going to show you one trick which I really like with the direct adjustment of hue saturation. If you go to hue saturation, instead of doing it on everything, the master colors, I can just affect the yellows in this image. And I can shift their hue to be a little bit pinker, a little bit brighter. Right? And that will help it kind of fit. And that's just affecting the yellows. So what did that do? Went from this to this. And that kind of brings it into the foreground color scheme a little bit better. All right, so the first thing we do, Command S, we save it as a PSD. It has our name. It is now saved to the desktop. It's cropped. You see there's no gray around it. Good. The next step is to say File, Save a Copy. And we're going to save it as a JPEG to the desktop. Same name, different format. The JPEG is going to flatten it all into one. My image is quite large, so I'm going to take it not at 12, which would be 22 megabytes. I want it to be closer to 5 megabytes. So I'm going to try going down to around 8. That's still 5.4. So I'm going to go to 7, and that's now 3.9. So use that slider on the JPEG to make sure it's less than 5. This is just for your online submission. It's not going to affect the quality of your PSD. And then you can close Photoshop. You can even sign out of it. You got to find that JPEG, find your PSD. I marked my JPEG orange. That's what goes into Canvas. So I go down to where I posted my sketch. Now I post the next requirement, clicking on the 3 dots saying Edit. Requirement 1 is the planning sketch. Requirement 2, which I hope you can all get something up for by the deadline tonight, is the composite as finished as I could make it by deadline. So I'm going to put finished in quotes. The finished composite landscape as complete or as best I could do by deadline. You don't need to label these, I'm just demonstrating. So as long as you have those two things. And now what goes on so that we can all see it, it's the JPEG. Drag and drop it and then shrink it so it's not too huge, but also not too small. So once it comes in, I'll make it about half the size of the window, maybe a little bit beyond, maybe about there, when I'm zoomed in at 100%. What do I mean by zoomed in at 100%? When you're in the browser and you hit Command plus, it will show you when you're at 100% for screen pixels or not. So at 100%, you want it to take up about half the screen lengthwise. That way we can see it clearly as a JPEG. All right, then I've got to organize my work, right? So I open up my master folder and I drag the PSD and the online format, the working format on the online format. Here, all my references are here. Even the things I didn't use, like that hook. And if I want to go back and work on it, I go to the PSD. So what are we trying to do? Remember, we're trying to create settings that later we can put creatures in with foreground, middle ground, background. So if I make some kind of Popeye-inspired creature, this can be a setting that it will go into, right? And that will lead us to our next assignment, which is Unit 5. We're going to learn how to do creature concepts. And all I have to do to get there is click on Next. But that will be the next video. But you can take a look once you've posted your work.